Speaking of Joker, of course, Martin Scorsese was originally brought this to Warner Brothers with Todd Phillips, and he's the one who got the ball rolling and got the Joker all moving. Martin Scorsese is now back in the news again, everybody. Let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today is sent in to us from Edwin M, who writes, "Hey, John, I love Martin Scorsese, who doesn't? And I can't wait to see The Irishman. Just wondering, though, if you saw his comments about comic book movies not being real movies or cinema. Do you think he has a point, or is he just being jealous?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Edwin. Well, first of all, let's be clear. Martin Scorsese is jealous of no one. Let's just be clear about that. Martin Scorsese is jealous of no man. Martin Scorsese is a god. That said, he did say something that got a lot of people's attention yesterday. For those of you who haven't heard about this, Martin Scorsese was being interviewed. This comes from an article in Empire. Martin Scorsese was asked about Marvel films. And of course, he's got The Irishman coming out. Ironically, he's the guy who brought Joker to Warner Brothers with Todd Phillips in the first place. But he said the following regarding Marvel films. "I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema," Scorsese told Empire. "Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to another human being." Let me read what Scorsese said here again, because I want us to be instead of just flying off the handle and being knee-jerk reactionists, let's pause, go through his words again, and really consider what it is he's saying here, guys. Asked about Marvel films, "I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema," Scorsese told Empire. "Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks. It isn't the cinema of human beings trying to convey emotional, psychological experiences to other human beings." All right. Predictably enough, this got a lot of people reacting yesterday, including James Gunn, who I follow on social media. I don't follow many people on social media. I follow James Gunn on social media. And Gunn said, I'm paraphrasing James Gunn, but Gunn said, Martin is one of my top 5 favorite directors of all time. I have grown up idolizing his movies, and basically I find it a little hurtful that he won't even give my movies a chance. That's an understandable sentiment. That's an understandable sentiment from a filmmaker who idolizes, as all filmmakers do, Martin Scorsese. Because that can be kind of hurtful to hear that. Let me say something very, very unpopular. And you guys know my job here is not to say things that are popular and not to say things that you automatically agree with. So let me say something that's going to be unpopular, and then do me the privilege of hearing me out as I explain what I mean, okay? To a degree, and let me emphasize that, to a degree, I think Martin Scorsese has a point. To a degree, I think Martin Scorsese has a point. Now, look, you guys know that I am a comic book movie fanatic. I don't care if it's DC. I don't care if it's Marvel. I am just a comic book movie fanatic. I love this stuff. I mean, even when they're bad, I watch them. I'll call them bad, but I'll still watch it because I'm a sucker for this stuff. Everybody knows Robert Meyer Burnett is he's a walking comic book encyclopedia. He's a walking film historian, and he loves his comic book movies. Absolutely. But one of the things that both Rob and I have said over the years is that, to many degrees, comic book movies are a little bit of a separate thing. There are great comic book movies, but they're great for comic book movies. And then we've had a few comic book movies. I only believe 3 comic book movies have ever truly transcended the genre of comic book movies to becoming real cinema. And those 3 films, in no particular order, to me, and I'm not saying these are the 3 best, but I think these are the 3 that best exemplify, that have gone beyond just being comic book movies to being something truly special. I believe that is The Dark Knight, I believe that is Logan, and I believe that's the Joker, now that I've just seen Joker. These are three films that seem to almost forget at times that they are comic book movies and really set aside the art of filmmaking and making really good cinema. And so, to a degree, I can see what Martin Scorsese is saying. To a degree. You know, it's like this. I was a little flabbergasted. I did not think last year that Black Panther deserved a Best Picture nomination. Hell, I didn't even think Black Panther was the number 1 or the number 2 best comic book movie of the year. I thought Black Panther was the 3rd best comic book movie of the year it got nominated for Best Picture. I thought Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the best one. I thought Avengers Infinity War was the 2nd best one. And then Black Panther. And a lot of people want to see Infinity War nominated. A lot of people saying they want to see Endgame nominated. Here's the thing. I think when we don't watch a lot of other cinema, when we don't watch a lot of other types of movies, and we really just kind of stay within our appetite zone of action, sci-fi, comic book movies, things like that, then we start to gauge things by a different level a little bit. You know, when there's a great performance in a comic book movie, we automatically think that's one of the great performances of the year, when in reality, there's probably about 20 or 30 other performances outside of those genres that were far superior, but by our measurement and by our grading level, it was amazing. We think it deserves an Oscar. I think the Robert Downey Jr. thing is a great example of that, which we'll talk about the Robert Downey Jr. thing here in just a couple of minutes. Where I think Martin Scorsese is off base, this is the part where I think Scorsese's off base. And I would challenge him on this. I would say this to him. Is, you know what, Martin, let's look at the first sentence where he says, I don't see them. I tried, but that's not cinema. Okay, time out for a second, Martin. And I believe me, I am genuflecting as I speak to Martin Scorsese. Believe me, I am genuflecting as I speak. So with all due respect, great one. When you say you tried, what do you mean you tried? What, you tried 1? You tried 2? Do you think because you tried 1 or 2, that becomes reflective of what all the movies in that genre are? You just said you don't see them. Look, I'm cool if a filmmaker, again, genuflect, like Martin Scorsese, wants to say, I don't watch comic book movies. That's cool. Not all movies are for everybody. If he doesn't want to watch comic book movies, okay, that's fine. We all have, some people don't want to watch horror. Some people don't, that doesn't mean they're haters. It just means, hey, horror's not for them, so they don't like to watch horror. Some people don't like to watch rom-coms. It's not that I don't believe in love. It's just that those types of movies aren't for me. No problem. For Martin Scorsese to say, hey, I don't watch comic book movies. That's okay. No harm, no foul. Those movies aren't for you. They don't do it for you. No big deal. All fair. All fair. However, great one. If you're going to first admit that you don't even watch them, how can you then move forward and speak in terms of criticism of them? You just said you don't watch them. Now, I agree to a point that, look, comic book movies still have a long way to go to get to real, the highest echelon of cinematic filmmaking. I believe comic book movies, even though it's my favorite genre, they still have a long way to go. They're getting there, though. They're getting closer than they ever have before. But, Martin, don't criticize a genre that you don't even watch the movies. You shouldn't come out and say, these comic book movies, they're not cinema. If you haven't watched Logan, don't tell me these movies aren't cinema. If you haven't watched The Dark Knight, don't tell me these movies aren't cinema. If you haven't seen Joker, well, I'm sure he saw Joker. He's the one who brought Joker to Warner Brothers with Todd Phillips. Okay, so he's probably seen Joker. But it's probably part of the reason why Joker is so different. But what I'm saying is, I think there is a valid acorn of truth in what Martin Scorsese said, but I almost feel like the great one almost nullifies his own point by admitting, I don't even watch these movies. Now let me tell you what's wrong with them. Wait a minute, how can you tell me what's wrong with these movies, Martin? Oh, great one. If you don't watch them. If you don't watch them, how can you say that? So how can I listen to you? How can I take you seriously about what your comments are? And how can I not look at your comments without a little bit of suspicion when you come right out of the gate with this big blanket statement that says, I don't even watch these things? Well, then how am I supposed to listen to anything you say about it afterwards? How is that fair? Now, look, I will give the great one, and he is the great one. I will give the great one, cut the great one some slack here because, you know, he was asked a question. He said an answer. Maybe if he was sitting down writing out his answer and organizing his thoughts, maybe it would have came out differently. And maybe that's not quite exactly how he meant it to come across. I'll give him that benefit of the doubt for now. But I believe instead of just being knee-jerk reactionist, I'm actually going to say, you know what? What he's saying, there is a little bit of truth to that. I think there's a little bit of truth to that. But I also think there are exceptions, and I think this is a genre that's going, and I think if you're going to criticize the genre and downtrot it and say it's not even real cinema, I'm sorry, great one, but you are not qualified to give that opinion if you don't even watch the damn movies. You're not qualified to give that opinion. You're not. Watch the movies, and if you think they're the biggest bags of shit in the world, say they're the biggest bags of shit in the world, and you're entitled to that opinion, and you're qualified to give your opinion because you've watched them. But if you don't watch them, don't say that. Say, I don't watch these things because they're not for me. I don't watch these things because I personally like more real world drama. Say that. That's fair. But don't criticize someone after you just said you don't even watch it or give it a chance. You know, because I think, great one, you might be surprised to see that little by little, this little genre is not just a giant box office force. This little genre is actually getting better and better and better quality-wise to the point that you might even call it cinema. Anyway.